Hello, my name's Edmund Dudley. I'm a teacher trainer and an author for Oxford University Press, and this is a short video summary of my presentation, Engaging Millennials, Personalised Pathways to Better English. To begin with, I looked at this topic of motivating teenagers, and I thought specifically about what seems to work. Now, I'm basing the talk on my own experience as a teacher of teens and millennials in Hungary, and I'm going to give you a chance to compare your experiences with those of mine. The way I want to do this is to think about three questions that you can ask yourself about your teaching. First of all, how do you get your students motivated? Secondly, what makes it difficult to motivate your students? And thirdly, is there anything in particular that works well? Now, before you hear my answers to these questions, why don't you pause the video and take a couple of moments to think about your students and to answer these questions for yourself. Now, here's the way I see it. When it comes to motivating students, the most important thing for me is to build rapport within the group, by which I mean that although I'm there to teach them the language, the most important thing that I need to do is to establish a relationship with the students as people. That comes first. That determines how successfully we'll be able to work together. Secondly, I like to involve students as much as possible in classroom decision making. For example, the date of a test. Having communication and dialogue between students seems to make a significant impact, or to have a significant impact on their motivation. Thirdly, being responsive as a teacher, noticing when hands go up, being there to answer questions, and indeed thanking students, welcoming a question from students is, I think, a very important thing to do. Setting an example with your own behavior. What do I mean by this? Well, I think that students can tell if we're looking forward to a class or if we're not. I think students can also tell when a teacher is just going through the motions. And so in order to motivate students, we need to be motivated about our own lessons ourselves. Okay, the second question, what are the difficulties? For me, there are a few. The proficiency level of the students can make it difficult, especially in a mixed ability group. Also, students are inhibited. They're afraid of getting the answer wrong or of saying something which will make the others in the group laugh at them, perhaps. They have low confidence, perhaps low confidence in themselves as learners, or perhaps it's confidence which is low because of something which isn't connected to language learning at all. We have to be aware of this as a possibility. There are distractions in the classroom, not just mobile phones, but also people to talk to, stuff to do, other homework that needs to be done, and so it's a rare lesson in which we have the attention of all the students. And this lack of interest, I think, is unavoidable. However hard we prepare, however much we try to make our lessons engaging and motivating, we need to be realistic. It's school, and for the most part, students would rather be somewhere else. And in terms of what works particularly well, there are three strands to the activities that work for me that seem to be important. First of all is having some aspect of personalization to the tasks. Secondly, asking questions or giving prompts which are open-ended and so which allow students to move in various directions. And thirdly, using flexible working modes, for example, using pair work, using small group work, or even giving students the chance to work on their own, if that's what they'd like to do. Now, above all, there's one thing that I've learned over the years, which is the importance of getting the priorities right. Students will tolerate boring lessons, but they'll never forgive us for being unfair. So when we go into the classroom, the key thing we need to try to do is not to do any damage to our students' motivation. And if we're lucky, as a result of that, drip, 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 slowly the motivation might begin to build up over the lessons that follow in the weeks and months down the line. Let's look at a whole person approach. And we often think that the secret to success in school is getting good grades, studying hard, and having a high level of knowledge. But one of the things I talked about was the importance of having soft skills in addition to hard skills. And What do I mean by soft skills? Well, essentially, we're talking about the flip side of IQ. We're talking about EQ, which is emotional intelligence. We're also thinking about the role of social skills and life skills and other skills which you could call non-cognitive skills, skills that you can't learn from a book but which you have to pick up in life. Things like being curious, being determined, being brave enough to put your hand up in class, having a growth mindset, which means you want to improve and push yourself to get better day by day. You can see a slide which shows the cover of a book called Mixed Ability Teaching. I'm the co-author of this book together with Erika Oshvat, and there's a quotation from the book that I'm going to read out to you. It says, "It makes sense to think of the classroom as a miniature version of the world outside, in which success depends not only on gaining knowledge, but also on having social skills, values, and life skills." And I think it really is possible in the English lesson to help students learn these soft skills in addition to the hard skills of language. And I have one very simple activity to show you in which you can do exactly this. Really, it's a problem-solving task where you have to think about a problem that you overcame recently. Now, in the case of a teacher, it might be a problem such as a flat tire on your car, a broken phone screen, maybe an angry partner, or perhaps an unscheduled class. And what you're invited to do is to think about how you solved this problem and then to analyze what you needed in order to fix the situation. Now, was it simply hard skills? Did you need to look at a book and then find a solution there? Or was it something else? Was it some kind of initiative or life skill that you needed to call upon? Now, according to your problem, you will have the answer for that. But what's interesting is that in most cases, the solutions we need to everyday problems are a combination of hard skills and soft skills. And this task is one that you could give to your students, either in English or in Italian, to help them see for themselves the importance of these soft skills. When we're thinking about a whole person approach in the classroom, the things that we're thinking about are the following: celebrating not only students' strengths, but also working on their weaknesses. Emphasizing that in addition to hard skills, there are also soft skills which can be learned. I think it's also important to acknowledge the emotions and attitudes that students bring with them to the language classroom, and to have a work ethic which extends not only towards language learning, but also towards the classroom as a learning environment. I want to encourage students to have a growth mindset in which they try hard to get better day by day. And to finish off with, I want to share with you a couple of simple techniques for boosting the confidence of students. One that I've had a lot of success with is simply called speak, pass, or nominate. When you're getting feedback from students on a paired task, before nominating one student to speak, give them an option. Say, do you want to speak, pass, or nominate? If the student chooses to speak, that's great. If the student doesn't want to speak, they can pass, in which case you move on to someone else. Or the student can simply nominate their partner. Now, this sounds very simple, but in fact it has a fantastic effect on giving students confidence. Let's look at why it works so well. Interestingly, the majority of students actually choose to speak, especially when they see that the teacher doesn't mind if the student says pass. And so when a student does pass and there are no negative consequences, they have a strong sense of relief, which actually leads to renewed confidence. I've often found that students put their hands up a few minutes after passing. Now, when a student nominates her partner or his partner, that student does not have to speak if they don't want to. They also have the choice to pass for themselves. And what we're doing is giving students options, and this seems to be the most important recipe for success when it comes to giving students that motivation. The second activity I want to share with you is a scale of 1 to 5. Basically, it works by giving a prompt which I don't expect students to know the answer to. For example, a picture, and saying to them, do you know who this is? I provide students with 5 options and ask them to say how sure they are about the answer to the question. In this case, who do you think it is? If they're not sure, they can say 1, I have no idea, but I'll say, and they're encouraged to have a guess. If they're absolutely sure who it is, they can say 5, I'm 100% sure that it's... Here, the key thing we're learning is that it doesn't matter always if you know what the answer is. It's far more important to be brave enough to have a go. That was my short summary of the talk. You can see on the PDF version of the slide a link where you can also see other presentations that I've done, and an Instagram handle where you can contact me on social media. Thanks very much, and good luck to you with your teaching.